Hi guys, and welcome to this video. I am going to be talking about the importance of a shot list when it comes to your branding shoot, and walk you through my process on how I actually create these shot lists for my clients. I do believe it's really important for the client to have a good understanding of this process, how they're involved, and also for other brand photographers in case you're curious of how I set my shot list up. So the first things first, we're going to talk about what a shot list is. And a shot list is basically a detailed checklist of every photo that the photographer and the client wants to get during their shoot. So it can contain specifics such as time, angle, props, location, outfits, kind of whatever you want to put in there. And you're going to see shortly what I like to include in my shot list. Why are shot lists important? Shot lists are really important because branding shoots are really intentional. I do a lot of portrait photography as well, family photography, and I like to leave those fairly candid. But when it comes to branding photography, there's certain things you want to get, and you want to make sure that all your brand elements are considered as well. So brand colors, you want to consider certain locations, and especially with product photography, a shot list is going to be so important because there's different angles that you want to get in small details that you would miss. So the next question is, who makes the shot list, and does the client have any say in it? So the answer to that is that the photographer or the videographer usually creates the shot list, but the client will be able to kind of give their final approval and any feedback. So I like to send my clients their shot list a week before their shoot, just so they can go over everything, make sure I'm not missing anything, tweak anything if they see fit. Sometimes locations change last minute, sometimes outfits change last minute if that's something that you're including. So it's always important to do a run through right before the shoot. That being said, we are going to kind of go through a shot list that I am creating right now for my client, and I'm going to do a screen share just so you can see exactly what we're working with here and how I set mine up. So the client I'm currently working for, she is a brand designer and a web designer as well. So she has a small studio, and we've kind of been planning her shoot. She's sent me everything that I need to create the shot list. And what that is usually I get my clients to fill out a branding intake questionnaire that asks them about their brand colors, their values, just things like that to figure out the overall aesthetic and direction that we're going in. And then I also ask for a Pinterest board of inspiration. This is great to have that visual reference and kind of see what people are thinking in terms of a vibe, of kind of poses, outfits. It gives me a really good idea. And then also we have a list of locations that we'd like to use, and we also rented a studio. So kind of all the details are pinned down. So once I have all those things, I will start to build the shot list. And if there's any variables or anything that could change, that could just be mentioned in the shot list, and that's subject to change at a later date. Like I said, the client will look over, and then we can add any last minute things that we need to. So I like to keep my shot list pretty simple. I don't use any fancy apps or anything. I've tried, and I feel like it's always a little bit more complicated than I need it to be. And I want the client to understand it too, right? So I keep things very simple. So first we're going to be looking at the folder that I have for this client. So like I said, I have all the details kind of in place. We have our folder of locations, we have our folder of outfits, and then I have her Pinterest board open here too, which is fantastic. So we've already done kind of the preliminary work, and it's time to pull this all together, which is what the shot list is really great for too, is pulling all these details together, because to have a folder for the outfits, to have a folder for the locations, to figure that all out the day of is going to be really complicated, right? And there's things that you're going to miss. So the shot list is really just to ensure that you don't miss anything. So the very first thing I would do is I would fill out all this logistical information, such as who's it for, the date, time, and locations. Just gives you a nice overview. So some of the locations I don't have specific addresses yet, but I know the area. So I put the beaches, which is in Toronto, and then we're going to go to a studio afterwards. So I do know the address of that, so I'll put that in there once I get it. So the next thing I would do is probably put in the time. So 9:30 a.m. So because she's provided me with the images of where she wants to shoot, I can pop that in right there, which is amazing. So we actually know what we're looking for, and it gives us kind of a visual idea. Photography is so visual, so I like to have photos of everything if I can. And you'll see where this comes into play later in the shot list as well. And then what I'll do is I'll usually work in half an hour chunks. That's kind of how I like to divide my time for a branding shoot, because I think half an hour kind of in one location with one outfit is great. And by one location, I don't mean she's just gonna stand in front of this bake shop and we're gonna take photos there for half an hour. I mean that we're gonna be in kind of like a small radius of this location. So we'll walk the streets around, we won't go too far, and we'll take a bunch of photos in the first outfit before heading to the next location or area, I guess would be a better description of it. And then she'll change an outfit at that time. So what we're going to do is we're going to then look at the reference photos that my client provided in her inspiration board, which is great. Her theme is like very minimal, modern, Parisian kind of chic, so I'm obsessed. I love it. And the photos that she provided are awesome. So there's so many here we can work with. So what we're gonna do now is, because we know our location, we're gonna see kind of what photos can we capture in that location? What photos can serve as inspiration in that location? And keep in mind here, it's so important that creating a shot list is not a means of trying to copy and replicate a photo to a T. It's just inspiration. So going back to her inspiration board, this one is fantastic. I love this photo, and I'm thinking that if we could get inside or outside the bakery, that we could try for something like this. So we're just going to take a screenshot of that and pop it in just like that. So I just take a screenshot, I drag it from my desktop. It's easier that way. And then I just delete them after, because I really don't need to save all these photos, and I have the Pinterest board if I need to go back. Okay, so then we'll keep working with this location. Like I said, we have a designated half an hour for this location. And we'll also want to put in the outfit. So another step I'll take is I'll look at my branding intake questionnaire that I've gotten my client to fill out. So I use Sprout Studio to kind of manage all my clients and my shoots, and they have a really great option of sending clients a questionnaire to fill out. So I do that with all my branding clients because it allows me to get to know their business a little bit better, their vision, their values, some important things that we're really going to try to highlight in the photos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look over Lindsay's questionnaire, and I'm going to just jot down anything that jumps out at me, something that I feel like we could capture visually. So I like to look at what they mention in terms of where their ideal clients hang out, what their values are, the topics they talk about on social media. That's a great question to get to know, okay, how can we get images that relate to those topics? So you can write a caption with more ease and kind of have the two ideas connect. Okay, so once I've looked at the branding questionnaire and kind of taken down any important notes, I go back to the shot list and I go through the brand message column. And this column is kind of one that I made up to put in the shot list because I really want to make sure that every business owner is getting content that actually aligns with their brand messaging. I don't just want it to be a pretty headshot or a lifestyle image of them working unless we kind of think of the message, the meaning, the story behind that. So here's where you can really preconceive that and kind of make sure that the visuals align with these branding elements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the reference photos that I've chosen and think, okay, how does this play into my client's branding? How can she tie the two together? So for this first photo, I'm going to look at the notes that I've taken and what does this say to me? How does this relate to Lindsay's brand? So to me, it looks like very, very classic, very elevated, very poised. And these are exactly the words that Lindsay used to describe her brand. So it relates to those values. And then for this next one, Lindsay also said that her target market hangs out in the city. So they are city dwellers, and some of the locations that they hang out are cafes. They're walking around the city. So this is really representative of her target client. And not every image needs to have a different brand message. It's actually really important to reinforce certain messages in branding because you don't want to be known for a million different things. You want to be known for a few different things. So for Lindsay's brand, I think the really important points are that her brand is elevated, it's really classic, but it's also effective. So you want to really translate that in the photos and kind of alternate between those messages. So the last question I get is, do you need to follow the shot list exactly? And this answer changes depending on what type of shoot you're talking about. So product photography, I lean more towards yes, because product photography is super, super detail oriented. There's a number of different angles that you need to get, different products, different scenarios. So my answer is yes for that one. It's really easy to miss small things with product photography. But for branding photography, my answer is no, because first of all, you're not really set up in a static environment where it's easy to look at a shot list. Branding photography, I'm often on the go at multiple locations. They happen fairly fast. I don't have hours and hours booked in studio. So it just kind of is a guide. And you can use the photos as inspiration just to make sure that you're getting the overall vision that your client has for their shoot. You're not trying to replicate everything to a T, and sometimes you want to do something different on the spot. Something looks better on the spot than you had originally intended for. So I give myself the freedom to go with that. But where it really comes in handy is just making sure that you're changing the outfits every half an hour, that you're getting to the locations on time, and that if your client has certain poses or certain photos that they really, really like, that you're getting those. But if they don't specify one way or the other, then this can just serve as inspiration and just make sure that you're kind of hitting those important markers. So another important reason that I do a shot list for the branding photography is just so everything's intentional. So we're actually thinking about what do these photos mean instead of mindlessly just taking them. Because I find that if you put in that little bit extra effort at the beginning, your photos feel so much more harmonious and comprehensive, and they just make, they fit together better. They make more of a story. They're just more intentional. I'm trying to think of so many words to describe what I'm saying, but what I'm trying to say is that they're intentional and that they actually have meaning versus just going out and shooting just for the heck of it, which you can do too. There's a time and a place for it, but for branding, I like to make sure it's really intentional, to say that again. I actually have a link for my template for my shot list if you want to use it. I encourage you to do so. Super simple, but super effective. It has not failed me yet. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions about my process or about a shot list, feel free to send them my way and I will get to them.